Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. I'm not here with Geeky Sparkles in this video, but we're going to do an update on the weird, wild situation that is Wizards of the Coast versus TSR 3.0, right? So a lot of people are probably confused. They're like, hey, didn't Wizards of the Coast buy TSR? Yes, they did. They bought TSR many years ago. Since that time, though, apparently Hasbro and or Wizards of the Coast has let the trademark lapse to the TSR name, and there have actually been two other companies called TSR. The first was an individual who created a version of Top Secret using the TSR branding, and to the best of my knowledge, they never had any problems with Wizards of the Coast. The second iteration of new TSR is the TSR that's run or owned by Justin Lanassa with Ernie Gygax, which is Gary Gygax's son. And they came back last year, and there's been a lot of drama around that situation. They attempted to sue Wizards of the Coast to take off the legacy disclaimer from their classic modules, where they're basically like, yeah, this old stuff was racist, and we're distancing ourselves from it, and we're gonna do better. We're gonna do better because that is very current year Wizards of the Coast. And then there was a lawsuit. Justin Lanassa from new TSR was going to sue Wizards of the Coast to get them to take this legacy disclaimer off, and then that got canceled, I guess, as I'm following here. And now there seems to be more action that Wizards of the Coast is actually suing the new version of TSR, claiming that they're infringing on their intellectual property, that they're trying to sow confusion and posture themselves as the actual TSR, which was absorbed by Wizards years ago. So much drama around this situation, and we've been kind of following it for the last year or so now. Disclaimer: I haven't talked to anyone over at new TSR in many months. They've had, I think their PR guy Michael left, and I'll be honest, I don't know what the hell's going on. I really have no idea what's going on over there. I went out to Twitter to see if they're actually producing content. And yeah, they put out the Star Frontiers books. And I guess that is a problem for Wizards of the Coast, because they're like, well, we bought the original version of Star Frontiers. We still have the original version of Star Frontiers available for purchase digitally, and you guys are stepping on our trademarks. I guess it could be argued on behalf of new TSR, if the trademarks meant so much to you, why didn't you register them for the last 20 years? I don't know if it was an oversight, if it was, or what was going on. If somebody was asleep at the wheel, I have no idea. But I do think this is a case of Wizards striking back against TSR because they attempted to sue them over this legacy disclaimer. Are you confused yet? Yeah, it's very, very confusing. So we're going to talk a little bit about it, try to make out the situation as best as I can. Again, lots of activity here on it. There's a counterclaim. They've summoned Dungeon Hobby Shop Museum and Justin Lanassa. Interesting situation. So this is kind of what happens when you threaten a large corporation. They do tend to throw their lawyers at you. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. Guys, over 260,000 subs. Thank you so much for the support. We do talk about tabletop gaming, not as much as we used to, but I have been following the situation with TSR because regardless of whether or not you agree with them attempting to bring the TSR brand back and getting some of the original players back, with TSR in regards to, content creators, not players of DnD. Wizards of the Coast has gotten pretty weird over the last couple of years. They've definitely courted the Tumblr, Twitter audience. We've seen it in, a lot of the material being published and the statements being given, and that basically they're going after the Tumblr 5e crowd, the Critical Role crowd, which is so weird because the Critical Role fandom is actually starting to turn on D&D and on Critical Role because they found out how much money those guys were making, right? But D&D had a really, really good year. Wizards had a really good year. In fact, we did a video a couple of weeks ago talking about how one of Hasbro's investors thinks Wizards should be spun off into a separate company because they think Hasbro is actually holding them back. And Hasbro, I don't know what the hell they're doing with Wizards. They're trying to turn it into a AAA game studio, video game studio or some shit like that. It's crazy. But there's been a lot of drama around the tabletop industry. And what caught my attention with this, I mean, beyond the fact that, being an old head, I'd be thrilled to see some incarnation of TSR come back. But really what caught my attention was how hard the fans, I guess, the people in the tabletop scene tried to cancel TSR, like right out of the gate. Before anything had gone down, before anything was published, they immediately tried to cancel Ernie Gygax. He appeared on a live stream, Tales from the Bunker, and he said a couple of things that Twitter took to mean were anti-trans or anti-LGBTQ+, and that's not what he meant. And they used that to get Ernie Gygax and TSR canceled from Gen Con. And, but then on the other side of it, at least from my point of view, TSR has gone in guns blazing, and they've actually been whacking the beehive pretty hard. And I can tell you, when you're dealing with a company like Hasbro or Wizards of the Coast, you go after them and you attempt to sue them, they're going to strike back, and they're going to strike back hard. And they've got like infinite money, especially now, given how much money they're making off of D&D. And Magic over the last year, they're going to strike back hard. And it appears that is the case. They've filed against TSR LLC, which is Lanassa's version of TSR. And so Lanassa alleges that Wizards of the Coast is doing damage to the TSR brand, the current TSR branding, because of the legacy disclaimer saying, hey, the old stuff we produced as TSR is racist and homophobic and yada, yada, yada. He claims that damages his company. And Wizards is basically like, you don't own any of this shit. That's what they're saying. Now, to be fair, they've let the trademarks lapse for TSR and I think Star Frontiers and some other materials, but they're trying to argue that they bought TSR, and buying TSR, the original TSR, they technically own everything that was associated with that original incarnation of TSR, including Star Frontiers, including the logos that Lanassa's TSR is currently using, and that Lanassa's TSR is trying to create brand confusion. So here's the deal. This is the TSR LLC versus Wizards answer and counterclaim document. You can go out, you can find these docs yourself. It is public information. This is the countersuit. Wizards of the Coast, admits it has asserted ownership of certain trademark rights and of copyrights in certain works, including but not limited to the game Wizards logo that TSR LLC has registered, the first Star Frontiers mark that TSR LLC has applied to register, the TSR mark that TSR LLC has applied to register, second Star Frontiers mark. Wizards further admits it has asserted that TSR LLC's use of certain images and words infringes trademark rights and copyrights owned by Wizards. TSR LLC's allegation that an actual case or controversy has arisen between the parties calls for a legal conclusion to which no response is required. Wizards denies the remaining allegations. Basically, you're damaging our brand because you're putting this legacy disclaimer. And I gotta be honest. I'm gonna be completely honest. I've been following this situation for a year. I guess it's been about a year now. I don't understand fully why they chose now to poke the bear because there have been threats of legal action on the part of Wizards, as I understand it, for a while. And they went and did this crowdfunding campaign, which they've apparently shut down because this has been canceled. I mean, this makes about as much sense as, to me, personally, about as much sense as going in and like suing Disney. If they're leaving you alone, personally, I would leave them alone and focus on creating good games. That is my opinion. If I were in charge, I am not in charge, obviously. But if it were my company, I would be like, yeah, you know what? If they're not going to bother us, we're just going to put some games out and we're not going to poke the bear because they've got infinite money. And you poke the bear, they're gonna bite. All right. So anyway, here are the facts. Wizards restates its answers to the paragraphs above. Wizards admits that TSR LLC has filed claims. Yada, yada, yada. Wizards admits that it did not continue to manufacture some products TSR Inc. previously sold and distributed. Between the time Wizards acquired TSR Inc. and present, Wizard denies the remaining allegations of the paragraph. Wizards admits it has continued to assert ownership of the TSR wordmark, the Game Wizards logo, and the Star Frontier marks, and has requested TSR LLC to stop registering, using, and/or promoting these marks. Wizards denies the remaining allegations. Basically, they're saying we're still using the old logos. We're still using the Star Frontiers brand. Now, there hasn't been any new Star Frontiers material from Wizards in a very, very long time. I don't know if they ever produced any new Star Frontiers material, but the out might be that they're still publishing that stuff on like DriveThruRPG. You can buy digital downloads of it, and that might, I'm going to be honest, I've been in trademark lawsuits before. That might be enough to assert ownership and be like, oh yeah, these modules that were created in like 1983, 1984, they're still available. They still have the old TSR logo on them. And, you guys technically have been publishing TSR content all along. They might be able to win that very easily. I mean, that's the thing. Again, if it were me, and it's not me, it's not my company, but if it were me, I would say, yeah, we're going to be a TSR, but we're definitely not going to use the old logo. We're definitely not going to go anywhere near anything that Wizards is still producing, even if it's just digital. We're going to create all new IP. The logo is not going to look like the original logo. It's just going to share the same name or a similar version, so people kind of get the nostalgia feels, but we're not going to go anywhere near what Wizards is currently producing, because it is a very sticky situation. Now, the difference with the Top Secret TSR guy is he just produced Top Secret, and the logo looked nothing like the original TSR logo. And I don't think they really cared too much about that because it wasn't hurting them. But again, when you go in guns blazing and sue a major corporation, they're going to push back. They're going to push back hard. So Wizards admits that it filed a cancellation proceeding on December 6th with the Trademark Trial and Appeal Board of the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, USPTO, seeking cancellation of TSR LLC's U.S. trademark registration for the Game Wizards logo. Wizards denies the remaining allegations. Wizards admits that TSR's complaint seeks a declaration that Wizards does not own copyrights and trademark rights to the marks, and that Wizards has taken the position that TSR LLC's behavior constitutes trademark and copyright infringement. Wizards lacks knowledge or information sufficient to form a belief, et cetera, et cetera. They said, you're using the lizard, you're using the Game Wizards logo, these are ours. They said that we tried to contact you last year in June, about this, that you need to stop doing that, and they didn't stop doing it. Wizards admits there's an actual present and justiciable controversy between TSR LLC and Wizards with respect to the Game Wizards logo, the TSR wordmark, and the Star Frontiers marks. Wizards denies the remaining allegations. So here's the defense. TSR LLC's complaint fails in whole or in part to state a claim upon which relief can be granted. Second defense, Wizards' use of the mark and copyrighted works predates any use by TSR LLC, and Wizards' rights are superior to any of TSR LLC's claimed rights in the word mark, the Game Wizards logo, and the Star Frontier marks. Basically, we were using them before because we bought TSR, and we're still publishing this stuff. Plaintiff does not allege it has, and plaintiff does not have trademark or copyright rights to any portion of the TSR word mark, the lizard image, the Game Wizards logo, or the Star Frontier marks. So here's the counterclaim. Now here's the thing. Now TSR is publishing Star Frontier's new Genesis. They have a whole stack of books here going out to their Twitter, and it doesn't look anything like the original Star Frontiers, which the original TSR did years and years ago. Here's the counterclaim. Wizards of the Coast hereby alleges upon personal information as to itself and upon information and belief as to all other allegations, the civil action is for false designation of origin in violation of the Lanham Act, cyber squatting in violation of the Lanham Act, trademark infringement in violation of the common law of Washington and other states in the United States, unfair competition in violation of North Carolina's deceptive trade practices. So they're basically saying, and again, this is a corporate lawyer, they're gonna play every card they can play, no pun intended. They're basically saying that you are being deceptive. You are trying to fool the public into thinking you're us. Whether that is or is not the case, that's up to the judge to decide. But yeah, it's not looking good for them. I'm going to be honest. A violation of the Washington Consumer Protection Act. So here, if you go to the background, this gives you a pretty good idea of what they're saying, what Wizards is saying. TSR Inc. was the original publisher of the highly popular Dungeons & Dragons tabletop role-playing game. TSR Inc. restructured into TSR Hobbies Inc. in 75. In 83, TSR Hobbies Inc. split into 4 independent businesses, with game publishing and development continuing as TSR Inc. In addition to Dungeons & Dragons, TSR owned the rights to, produced, advertised, and sold several other product lines, including Star Frontiers. TSR Inc. owned intellectual property rights, including but not limited to intellectual property rights relating to the name TSR and its Dungeons & Dragons and Star Frontiers products, among many others. Among several marks TSR Inc. placed on its products throughout its history, including DnD and Star Frontiers, are the following marks. The Game Wizards logo, the slanted TSR logo, and the dragon logo. This is one these two are the ones I'm the most familiar with because I'm old. Counterclaim defendant TSR LLC, which is Lanas's company formed in 2020, is not a successor in interest to TSR Inc. and did not purchase or otherwise obtain from TSR Inc. any of its registered or unregistered intellectual property rights. Basically, Lanasa got the trademark because it had lapsed from the previous trademark owner who was using it to sell Top Secret. Now, I think, again, not a lawyer, but I think if the new TSR had not poked the bear with a lawsuit, had not, attempted to give the appearance of being the true successor to the original TSR, I think they probably would have been fine, or more fine than they are now, if they just focused on creating games that were not TSR games like Star Frontiers. Whether or not they have a legal loophole, I don't know. I'm just saying, if it were me, I probably would have stayed clear of everything associated with the original TSR. Maybe use the name, the TSR name, but I wouldn't have used any logos similar to theirs. I wouldn't have created any games similar to or exactly like theirs, because it does cause market confusion. Yeah, it does. I mean, I'm going to be honest. I think Wizards is going to win this one. I think they are, which is a bummer, because Ernie Gygax seems like a pretty nice guy. And he's caught up in this whole situation. Here, the Game Wizards logo represented in Figure 1 is the same or substantially the same mark as TSR LLC is registered. Basically, they're like, we bought all this shit. You don't have a right to it. Now, again, why didn't you assert your trademark of the last 20 years? The judge may ask them, and they might be like, well, we didn't think we had to. We didn't think anybody would actually come in and take those. Wizards owns the trade dress and the designs used on goods that it sells in connection with the above trademarks. They still sell a lot of this stuff digitally. And I wondered when all of this happened, again, with this Indiegogo campaign, I was like, I don't know the legality of this, but I definitely think that the fact they own or they still use the TSR marks, in digital downloads could be a problem because they didn't abandon the mark completely. They're still keeping it active somewhat by making that stuff available. And again, this is coming from a guy who's been in trademark disputes before. Like, that's how they're going to look at it. They're going to be like, well, you never stop selling TSR product. You just sort of sunset the brand, but you still keep the stuff in publication. Wizards' acquisition of TSR Inc. included TSR Inc.'s intellectual property rights, including its trade names, trademarks, and service marks. TSR Inc.'s intellectual property at the time of the sale included, but was not limited to, intellectual property rights relating to the name TSR, the Dungeons & Dragons line of products, and the Star Frontiers line of products, among others, including, but not limited to, the word and design marks represented figures 1 through 3 above. In addition, on or about May 30th, 97, TSR Inc. formally assigned all of its U.S. trademark registrations to Wizards, and that assignment was recorded with the USPTO on December 6, 2000. So they transferred all of the trademarks. The trademarks that Wizards acquired from TSR Inc. include trade dress rights and are collectively referred to as Wizards marks. Although some of the registrations of Wizards marks were not renewed, Wizards continued using the marks in commerce. This is actually very important. When it comes to trademark law, whoever is using it in commerce the most or first, the trademark office tends to favor them. It doesn't matter if you register or attempt to register somebody else's mark, which we've actually been in a situation like this before. If your use of it and your continued use of it predates somebody else's use of it, the trademark office can actually cancel your mark and award that mark to someone else. Basically, all you're doing with the trademark office is making it easier to win a legal battle if somebody else tries to use the same name. But if they're not using, like a lot of times people will file like an intent to use, like they're saying we're going to use this mark, we're going to use this name for something, but they haven't actually done it yet. That doesn't hold as much water as, we've been using the Watterson widget factory name for the last 20 years now, and even though we haven't registered Watterson's widgets, somebody else has intent to use of Watterson's widgets, but everybody knows we're Watterson's widgets. And even if they register that mark as intent to use, sometimes the trademark office will actually cancel that trademark and let Watterson's widgets register it because they've been operating under the name Watterson's widgets for years. You know what I'm saying? It's who's using it the most and who's got the most famous use for it. Wizards' sale of Dungeons & Dragons products bearing Wizards marks. Wizards has produced, advertised, and sold D&D products continuously since acquiring TSR Inc. D&D is one of Wizards' most prominent and well-recognized brands. Wizards owns trademarks associated with D&D and diligently protects them, except for the TSR name that they let lapse, which, again, I don't understand why they did that, but they did. In addition to creating and producing new and updated D&D products, Wizards has maintained continuous use of Wizards marks by producing, advertising, and selling older editions of D&D through One Bookshelf and Drive-Thru RPG and DM Guild websites since at least 2013. This is where it's going to get sticky. And this is what I was afraid of when TSR came back and I said, and they were like doing Star Frontiers. I'm like, I'm not sure how this is going to go because they never technically stopped using, even though they didn't register the name, they never stopped using it. Wizards never stopped using it. And I'll be honest, I don't think this would have happened again if they had not gone out and tried to sue Wizards. I think if they had just kind of kept their head down and made games that had nothing to do with anything the old TSR did, they might have been okay. The product listing for Wizards Dungeons & Dragons products on DriveThruRPG and the DM Guild prominently identify Wizards as the publisher. Below are screenshots of 4 of these products. There's the Game Wizards logo that new TSR has been using. Yeah, even going back to the old modules. You know, look at these. These are, yeah. I mean, I'm sorry. It's yeah. This doesn't look good. I'm going to be honest. DriveThruRPG and DM Guild websites. Since 2013, Wizards has also licensed its TSR and Star Frontiers IP to One Bookshelf and to sell fan-created content using the IP. The product listings for Wizards Star Frontiers products prominently identify Wizards as the publisher. Below is a screenshot of one of these products. Counterclaim defendants claimed reboot of TSR and Star Frontiers. On information and belief, counterclaim defendant Lanasa organized and registered counterclaim defendant TSR LLC with the Wisconsin Secretary of State's office on September 23, 2020. Lanasa is the organizer, sole manager, and registered agent of TSR LLC. Lanasa registered it to do business in North Carolina. In 2021 and 2020, counterclaim defendants began to publicly associate themselves with the prior TSR Inc. and claim ownership of the prior TSR Inc.'s intellectual property relating to Wizards Marks and the Star Frontiers brand. Again, if they had not gone anywhere near Star Frontiers, if they did not use the old logos, I think this would not be happening. I don't know. I could be wrong because Wizards is kind of batshit, but I mean, they don't really want to spend the time, I don't think, to smack down every publisher. But when they have one that's basically trying to give the impression that we are the heir to TSR, the original TSR, which in some ways, you know, I think they were more TSR than Wizards. I mean, we had the Gygaxes involved. We had some of the original crew involved. It's going to get really tricky. Anyway, on information and belief, during all relevant periods, counterclaim defendants knew and still know that Wizards owned and continuously used Wizards marks in commerce through the sale of older edition D&D modules and Star Frontier products. Lanasa and TSR own, operate, and maintain a website at the domain tsrhobbies.com, a domain name that infringes Wizards' intellectual property rights in the TSR name, and which is designed to cause confusion in the marketplace, including by falsely associating TSR LLC with the former TSR Inc. That I don't know about. I think they've been, I mean, to be fair to them, I think they've been pretty clear that they are not. It is a new company. It's not the original company. I think they've said multiple times, like, we don't own DnD. We're creating new stuff. But then the flip side is, one of the first things you put out is Star Frontiers, which TSR was known for, regardless of whether or not they let the trademark lapse. It's like, it's not really helping your case, guys. Just saying. Objectively, I'm just saying it's not really helping your case. Landing page identifies Lanasa as the CEO. The landing page prominently displays the Game Wizards logo, the same logo that appears on many classic D&D products, which are still offered for sale by Wizards. Here's a tweet they put out that TSR has been resurrected. Oh boy. Okay. On information and belief, on or about December 10th, counterclaim defendant Lanasa registered Dungeon Hobby Shop Museum LLC as a business with the Wisconsin State Secretary's office. Lanasa has publicly stated he runs Dungeon Hobby Shop Museum and has described it in at least one public interview as a for-profit museum. The Dungeon Hobby Shop Museum website that is located at 723 William Street, Lake Geneva, is the same address TSR LLC represented as its principal office. Dungeon Hobby Shop Museum LLC has a website located at tsrmuseum.com, a domain that infringes Wizards marks. On information and belief, counterclaim defendant intentionally chose this domain to cause consumer confusion and to convince consumers that TSR LLC owns Wizards marks when it does not. I don't know why they're still using the logo. The difference with the Top Secret guy is he had a completely different logo, even though he was publishing Top Secret. And, Wizards, as far as I knew, left him alone. The Dungeon Hobby Shop Museum website contains an online store that offers for sale a large range of products, including the Wizards marks. TSR dice with the Wizards marks. Yeah, this is not going to go well. Star Frontiers, this would actually be the game rules before they did the actual printed version of it. The Dungeon Hobby Shop Museum website is replete with statements and images designed to cause confusion in the marketplace and persuade viewers that TSR LLC is the successor in interest to TSR Inc. when it's not, and that TSR LLC owns intellectual property rights in Wizards marks, and it does not. Talking about Star Frontiers, they're producing a reboot of Star Frontiers, which they claim they do not have a right to do. Oh boy. There's a TSR Con coming in March 2022. That is neither here nor there. I mean, you can call your company TSR and you can call your company TSR and produce games, but the fact that they're using the old logo is, I think, and producing Star Frontiers is what's going to trip them up. So we knew this was going to happen. Basically, they're saying that they're intentionally trying to cause brand confusion at this point. Counterclaim defendants' promotion and sale of their infringing products and false and misleading statements about the reboot of TSR and Star Frontiers has caused and continue to cause confusion among consumers, many of whom are misled into believing that TSR LLC is in fact a successor in interest to TSR Inc. In total, TSR LLC has filed at least 8 trademark applications to register marks associated with Wizards. Blackmore, Star Frontiers, yeah. As part of each application, Lanasa submitted, signed, and sworn to the USPTO that, to the best of his knowledge, no other persons, except if applicable, concurrent users, have the rights to use the mark in commerce, either in identical form or in such near resemblance as to be likely to cause confusion. They might actually get him on trademark fraud. I'm going to be honest, because if he was, if they had actually told him to stop using the Wizards logo and stop going after Star Frontiers, they might actually be able to make a pretty good case that he's deliberately trying to cash in on Wizards-owned property at this point. And look, I want to be very clear. Like, I do not agree with the tactics that Wizards has used against any dissenting opinions, against Ernie Gygax and all this nonsense that's popped up, the circus that's popped up around this situation. I don't think anybody should be canceling anybody. I don't think anybody should be bullying anybody out of Gen Con or banning anybody from Gen Con. But as a business owner myself, as an owner of many trademarks myself, I'm going to tell you, I wouldn't have gone anywhere near anything that could even be misconstrued as Wizards owned, just because I don't want imperial entanglements. And that's kind of where we're at right now. So I'm going to be honest, completely honest. I think this is going to end with TSR LLC having to change their name. And, they're probably going to have to stop producing Star Frontiers, in my opinion. I don't know exactly what's going to happen, which is a bummer because the books actually look pretty good. Yeah, and they're saying the science fiction classic returns are using the Lizard Man. Guys, I don't think this is good. I think you've just opened up a huge can of worms. That is my personal opinion. So take it or leave it. It's not my company. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this one up. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. We'll talk later.